Welcome to Waywut, your weekly verbal double take. This is a rabbit hole podcast where a couple of old guys do moderate to shallow dives into various topics, ranging from true crime, paranormal, sports, pop culture, or anything else that we find interesting. We drop episodes every Tuesday and on Fridays if we feel like it. You can follow us on Facebook, X, and TikTok. We appreciate you joining us. And now that we got all this self-promotion stuff out of the way, here we go. Hello once again. This is Darrell. I am going to be taking the reins on this episode of Waywut. And here I am with the man that was falsely convicted of peeing on the leg of his favorite wrestler, Jason.
No, I did it.
I was going to say... No, you didn't. Because the reason they ended up figuring out that you were falsely convicted is because they proved that you were physically incapable of peeing standing up.
It's so much easier to sit down.
I was going to say Stone Cold's like, that motherfucker sat on my leg. Actually, it did Jericho, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mean to misname your favorite wrestler.
That's all right. Stone Cold's not too bad either.
Yeah, but is he good enough to pee on?
Probably,
no?
But if I had my choice, I would pee on Jericho first.
Okay. Don't worry, he's never going to watch this. I would like to start today, and I'm sure Jason will love this one, on a virtue signal rant.
All right.
Nothing ruins a good deed more than someone telling you how awesome their good deed was.
Yeah. Or filming it.
I mean, and the people that do it, is it that they're hungry for praise and a pat on the back? The generations that we have right now that love to talk about how wonderful, thoughtful, and compassionate they are is the same generation that didn't keep score in Little League and everyone got trophies. I have to wonder, did they get addicted to praise and pats on the head and now they are the tryhards that have to post about any time they give a buck to a homeless guy or film themselves telling off someone for driving the wrong car? Is it supposed to fulfill that need for that pat that they used to get all the time?
I think so.
Or is it more about people pursuing their 15 minutes of fame?
That too.
I mean, I can understand the desire to get attention in hopes that you get famous. I mean, here we are doing a podcast and we absolutely want this to get attention and blow up.
Yes.
I mean, hell, we spent $100 of our hard-earned money just to get to 100 subscribers. See, on YouTube, we didn't like pay anybody. We gambled, but that's how we got over 100 subscribers on YouTube.
We hoard ourselves out, according to your wife.
Whores.
It worked.
However, you and I don't pretend to be good people while we're doing this.
No.
I will pretend to be a worse person than I probably am. But I don't pretend to be good.
No, we said some shit.
Yeah. I can't stand those videos where people record themselves like giving a homeless guy money.
Yes.
I have done some things that are probably considered very good. But I didn't do them for attention.
You did them for the good deed. Yeah.
I did it because it was the right thing to do.
Uh-huh.
True virtue and good is done because it's good, not because it's a vehicle to get famous.
Uh-huh.
Nothing but controversial opinions here at the Waywut podcast. Because I'm pretty sure people are like, those bastards.
I can't stand those videos, though. I'm sorry. I'm just saying, I can't stand them. And they say about the giving out money. They go up to the homeless guy and they say, I'm so hungry. And the homeless guy gives them half of his sandwich. And they go, well, here you go. Here's $10,000. I just happened to be videoing it at the time.
I think my favorite one that I ever saw was like, you see this gorgeous woman like go up to a homeless guy and she like puts like some food in his hand real fast. And then she like walks backwards away. And then afterwards, she just comes over and snatches it back up, and you saw that she just played it all backwards. She didn't really give him anything. I thought that was pretty funny.
People.
If you're promoting a charity event or a fundraiser, then that's cool. I mean, that's utilizing fame for a good cause. Mm-hmm. Doing the reverse, utilizing a good cause to get fame, is just the worst thing, about one of the worst things you could do.
Yeah, I used to wrestle, and a lot of people will put on a benefit show, and yet, now don't get me wrong, a lot of these benefit shows are legit and they are go for a good cause, and the people actually get it. But sometimes they put on a benefit show just so they can have a show to wrestle on. Just we're gonna put on a benefit show for him because he can't pay his rent this month. So everybody come out, work for free, and it's just so I can have a wrestling card to wrestle on.
Somebody's like, "Oh God, Frankie, I got cancer," and it's like, "Oh, that's fucking great! Look, just come over here.
Finally, I get to wrestle again.
I'll give you 10% of the door, and we'll just call it the Frankie WrestleMania or something."
Yeah, you see it. You see it a lot, unfortunately.
I do have another theory regarding virtue signaling. I think people nowadays just want a good fight to fight. We don't have Jim Crow laws. We don't have a war that's drafting a bunch of kids and sending them off to their deaths. Most of the current issues nowadays have a bit more nuance with valid points on both sides. However, both sides have people that grab onto said issue and treat it like it's the next civil rights movement or actual life and death.
Yes.
The big bad government has spent years showing that it's been willing to follow whatever movement starts blowing up on the internet. So the government is no longer the opponent for these vocal fighters. This leaves a lot of these activist fighters, whatever, without a big bad to fight. So they scream at a camera over and over and flood the internet with their anger and their fight. Or they start hassling just random ass people on the street and taking the fight to them like they're the big bad.
Yep. See that a lot too.
Yeah. So to cap off this whole point, there is still a lot of good for people to do out there. And there's still a lot of good people that do them. Most of the people that you see all over the internet doing good deeds are not those people, though.
No.
So thank you to all the people that do all the good and we don't know about you. Good job. Keep up the good work. And I'm happy not knowing who you are.
Yeah, that's the point, right? If you're going to do a good deed, you don't want people to really know about it because that takes away the point of the good deed.
Yeah.
You see a lot of stars or movie stars or actors, even athletes, they'll donate a lot of money and you won't ever know about it.
Yeah. They don't talk about it, that it's not their thing. I mean, like John Cena didn't go around doing all those Make-A-Wishes just to be the guy that did the most.
Yeah.
Everybody else just grabbed onto that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, today I'm going to talk about someone that spent years doing actual good. It's unfortunate that most people haven't heard of him, but it's also one of the reasons on why I believe that everything that he did was actually true good. I mean, I just learned about him a few months ago, and that's 15 years after he died. So let's dive into this fellow that today's show's about.
All right.
Peter Shellem was born on October 6, 1960 in Broomall, Pennsylvania. He graduated from Temple University and went on to work his way up in the newspaper industry until he became an investigative reporter.
All right. Cool job.
Uh-huh. He was writing for the Harrisburg Patriot News when he came across information regarding the then Pennsylvania Attorney General, Ernie Priet Jr. The reason Ernie Priet Ernie Pritch's name was coming up as he was the subject of a federal grand jury probe involving possible mafia ties.
Okay.
And folks, if you keep hearing me stumble over my words, I've recently just tried to quit vaping, so the
He's
lack
drunk.
of nicotine.
Don't listen to him. He's been drinking
It's
since
the lack
2
of nicotine.
He's been up all night drinking.
It's during the week. No.
Well, I've been drinking.
When Shellem and his colleague at the time, Peter Shelley, so Peter, on top of that, Peter Shell and Peter Shell, go figure. But Peter Shelley was his partner, and they were the primary reporters shining a light on this probe as it was on the verge of being swept under the rug by the powers that be. You know, because they love to do that. They're like, oh no, here's some corruption. We're investigating. Oh no, we didn't find nothing. Despite attacks on their credibility, they persisted, and Ernie Pritch ended up serving 14 months in a federal prison for misappropriating campaign contributions.
All right.
Yeah. In other words,
he
he was getting shady donations that he wasn't reporting. After serving his time, Ernie Pritch became an advocate for prison reform.
He has.
That
place was terrible. Don't put me back. Let's change it all.
Since he went to prison, when he got out, he started helping bills in Pennsylvania pass that would permit DNA testing for prisoners claiming innocence. And he also advocated for more money for court-appointed attorneys so defendants could actually get better representation during their trials.
He probably heard everybody's story in there. Probably. I promise I will fix all of this. If y'all don't kick my ass right now, I will fix all of this for you.
Well, after Peter Shellem unearthed the Pritch scandal, he changed his focus to freeing people that were falsely convicted.
Okay. Innocent program.
Yes, but he wasn't a part of that. He wasn't part of the Innocence Project. He was just a reporter doing this on his own. It's what makes a lot of what he did so cool.
All right.
On April 5th, 1985, a Pennsylvania jury found Patricia Carbone guilty of the first-degree murder of Jerome Lent. Jerome Lent had been found stabbed 4 times in a vehicle in a remote area. After investigating, the police found Patricia Carbone, who admitted that she stabbed Lent after he attempted to assault her. They're like, oh, yeah, let's sentence her to life. So they sentenced her to life in prison.
Yeah, first-degree murder, I thought had to be premeditated.
That's what they were claiming. Shellem, he found her case around the early 90s. And after reviewing the testimony in the court documents, it just didn't sit right with him. So he reached out to Patricia. Eventually, his investigation found a previous victim of Lent that he had assaulted before, showing that he had a history of doing that. The information he uncovered warranted an appeal based on new testimony, as well as the lack of character witnesses for Patricia Carbone in the previous trial. So, in other words, the guy that the court-appointed attorney she had doing her case didn't bring up anybody to sit there and say she's not the type of person to just stab somebody. It's just like,
do your job.
Please just do your job. That's a basic one. I'm not a lawyer. I know that one.
But that happens more often than not.
Yeah. She won her appeal in 1998 and was freed from prison. She kept in contact with Shellem over the years and always made sure that she told him how grateful she was to him for all the work that he did in getting her out.
So how long did she end up staying in prison for? Did you say she went in 89?
She went in she went in 85.
Oh,
so she was actually in for a hot minute. Unfortunately, it takes time to get people out of prison. A lot more than it takes to get them in.
Kind of like getting married and getting a divorce.
Yeah. Shellem was not done. Also in the 90s, he was looking into the case of Steve Crawford. John Eddie Mitchell was a 13-year-old boy found murdered on September 12, 1970. He was found in the garage of the Crawford family with a bloody hammer nearby. A 14-year-old acquaintance of the victim was Stephen Crawford. And they were like, okay, this was his garage. He's 14 years old. Yeah, you're under arrest. And they got him convicted for the first-degree murder in 1974. The reason they were able to do this is they found a palm print on the car in his garage that matched his. And it's like, okay, well, that's his palm print. But a police lab technician found traces of the victim's blood in the palm print and stated that the palm print was what put the blood on the car. So the lab tech was like, yeah, the lab tech was saying that blood came from the palm print on that car. This was despite Stephen Crawford's alibi that he was working on a go-kart with a friend the entire day. But since the palm print matched his palm print, he was convicted. It was a weak conviction, though, and it was overturned 2 years later in 1976. The state of Pennsylvania put him back on trial and convicted him again in 1977. However, that conviction was overturned, and the Dauphin County prosecutor offered Stephen a plea deal that would let him off with time served if he would just admit that he did it. Stephen refused. He said, I didn't kill him. I'm not going to admit to it.
Yeah. No admission of guilt. If you didn't do it, it's worth it.
Yeah. They ended up getting his ass back in prison again.
Is he in an adult prison?
Yeah. By this point, yeah.
Okay.
So Shellem reported on, eventually got a hold of the report. And in 1997, he reported on the testimony of a man that stated that that he'd already talked to somebody that, well, it was more of a hearsay thing, that he talked to a guy that said that he lured the victim to the garage, and it wasn't Stephen. 4 years after uncovering that testimony, so we're talking 2001, Shellem reported on a discarded briefcase that was found to belong to one of the detectives from that case. That briefcase contained the original lab notes from the technician that analyzed that palm print. The original crime lab notes stated that Stephen Crawford's palm print was on the car before the blood, which eliminated the central piece of evidence for the prosecution's case.
Good grief. People just want to solve a case and don't care about who lives it ruins.
They want a conviction.
Yeah.
Stephen Crawford was freed in 2002, and the prosecutors were finally like, fine, we'll stop trying to convict him for it.
I guess you didn't do it. That's terrible.
Yeah, it's a bad one. It's whenever they get it in their head, they get that tunnel vision. They're like, you did it, yeah.
That's the wrong way to go about investigating.
Guilty or innocent, I don't care what. Police want to talk to you, lawyer up every time. Every time.
I know it's supposed to make you look guilty, but
they're there to get convictions.
Yeah, they're there to trap you in your words.
Thing is they can also, they'll say it makes you look guilty if you get a lawyer. Well, it also makes you look guilty if they manipulate everything you say to make you sound guilty, or
and
if they
get all
interrogate
flustered.
you for 18 hours or something.
Yeah, and you get all flustered and you even start looking guilty.
Yeah,
you might as well just start. Yeah, I'm just going to admit to it so I get out of here.
Well, we're going to get to something like that here in a second. So this next case, on August 13th, 1987, Edna Lauman was found assaulted, murdered, and her home robbed. Soon police began investigating her mentally handicapped distant relative, Barry Lauman. Gotta say it right. He had the intelligence of a 10-year-old and confessed to the crime during interrogation. So you got a guy that's about as smart as a 10-year-old. They keep locked in a room for 6-8 hours, whatever. And he's like, I did it. You know, that's how that works. Yep. However, during the forensic investigation, they found that the killer was a type A secretor. Barry had type B blood. You'd think, oh, well, that should rule that out. No, that's not going to stop the state of Pennsylvania, at least not back then.
His blood type must have changed.
No, they came back with the same scientist that lied about Stephen Crawford's palm print. I had her name. I'm not going to name it out. She's old now, but the same bitch, for lack of a better term,
That's how they know her.
Junk science that has since been thoroughly disproved, said that the sample degraded, changing it from type B to type A.
Like, that don't happen.
That doesn't happen at all. It's like,
I don't say anything.
That's like the same scientists in like the 1700s are like, yes, if you put rotten meat inside of a mostly closed jar, maggots will spontaneously generate on it because life just spontaneously generates. Wrong. It's not. It didn't. Type B didn't turn to type A. It was just always type A. So in 2003, Shellem began.
What was that testimony again?
Which testimony?
The one he said that the blood type changes.
It's the one with the old lady that was found assaulted, murdered, and robbed. But it was like,
what year was that?
1987.
Okay, so it's still kind of old, but not where they don't have any
whenever they used blood types instead of DNA.
Okay.
So Shellem began working the case in 2003. He found that the 3 state troopers involved in the Bauman investigation. Bauman? It's Lauman, isn't it? Oops, I mistyped. God, nicotine. All right. He found that the 3 state troopers involved in the Lauman investigation had since been accused of misconduct that resulted in false evidence. Surprise. He also learned that the biological evidence for that case had been misplaced and never tested for DNA. So instead of saying, oh gosh, they lost it, I guess that's it. No. He followed the chain of evidence papers and talked to all the lawyers that had been involved in this. And he had to follow it through attorneys who sent it to universities, who sent it off to a lab in Germany.
Damn.
And it had been in Germany for like years. And he found it there. And he's like, okay, I need you to send this to me. And he made sure that, he worked with the lawyers and made sure that everything was documented so that they couldn't say that the sample got switched or muddled with. And they carefully documented the chain of possession and got the samples back to the States, and they were found to not be a match to Barry Lauman. Surprise!
Once again, why the hell was it in Germany?
So whenever they were studying DNA and sequencing and stuff like that, there was I've heard more about this. There's essentially a German colleague to a guy here that's like, hey, we're testing out some stuff where we're able to get some better detail out of things, and it just kind of went there. And it stayed for like years upon years. Wow. Barry Lauman was released from prison in 2003, and the prosecutor finally dismissed the charges in 2004. Since then, in 2021, using forensic genealogy, police found and convicted Chris Spielman for the murder.
Never mind.
No, not a football player. It's just he was just a guy that was wandering through Pennsylvania, and I don't remember if he was a vagabond or what. He might have been from a couple towns over, but he was just some piece of shit, went and raped and murdered an old lady.
Damn. So he was in prison for about 20 years.
Almost, yeah. He got convicted in, I think, 87, 88.
Didn't these people get money once they got out?
Oh, yes. Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Okay, I'm about to say, get ready to get some kind of compensation.
Oh, they do. Most of the time. There are certain times where that's why they don't try to get their sentences commuted. They try to get them overturned, because if you get your sentence commuted, they're like, okay, you served your time. You're supposed to. If you get it overturned, then it's like, okay, well, you had me in prison falsely. You owe me money. So, last case. March 11th, 1994, Geneva Long was a 67-year-old woman that was beaten to death and set on fire.
Good grief.
The police once again arrested a mentally handicapped person by the name of David Gladden, who was later convicted and sentenced to life in prison. In 2005, Shellem was on the case, and he published a series of articles that exposed that one of the people that testified against David, a man named Andrew Dillon, had been charged and pled guilty for the murder of 4 elderly women using the exact same MO in the same area.
You would think that would be quite obvious. I mean, beating somebody up and then setting them on fire, that's kind of stands out.
It's just like, oh, but I didn't do that one.
That's not me.
That one wasn't me. Shellem also located a witness that claimed that Dillon had asked him to be his alibi for the night that Geneva Long was murdered. Later, he uncovered that an informant the police used against David claimed that the police told him that David, the mentally challenged guy, had accused him of being the killer and that they were going to get him the death penalty. The informant was like, it wasn't me. And they're like, well, why don't you tell us what he did? And they fed him details about the crime for the statement that he eventually gave against David. So that's pretty corrupt.
Yeah.
By this point, in 2007, the prosecutors in that area knew very well that whenever Shellem came for him, he came loaded for bear. Whenever it came to freeing wrongly convicted people. Mm-hmm. So he comes over to him. He's like, hey, I got this. Prosecutor's like, okay, cool. Let's vacate that conviction.
You got that kind of a reputation already.
Yeah, they kind of dropped that. They're like, okay, we're not doing the shitty things that they used to. So write nice things about us, please. We'll let them go. Just leave us alone. Please. And I mean,
detectives and cops, their jobs are hard. There's no doubt about it. I'm sure they're overwhelmed. They're overworked. There's never enough people to help out. But to bend the rules just to get a file off your desk, just to say you solved the crime, I mean, that's terrible. That's just terrible.
That's why you can't, not just anybody could be a cop. It's one of the reasons why they are realizing that, after Afghanistan and everything like that, where they started taking in all these vets and just making them cops like almost automatically. It was a terrible idea. There's this sheriff in Florida that I like the way he puts it. He's like, I don't need warrior cops. I need guardian cops, ones that are there to protect, not people that are out to fight and get people. And I think that mentality needs to spread a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good cops out there, but I know there's a hard job. It's just bad stuff all around.
I mean, that's pretty much what I was going to go over of what this guy accomplished. I mean, because it's just really cool that you have this newspaper reporter that busts his ass and gets 4 people out of prison. I mean, now some of these, I think the Innocence Project did help, because they were involved in like the legal part and making sure that they got lawyers and stuff like that. But this guy did like the groundwork and went and talked to people and got answers to help track down evidence that was on the other side of the globe.
Yeah, and not like it was recent stuff. I mean, he's years old.
He was appreciated though. So Peter Shellem won the Justice in Journalism Award from the ACLU of Pennsylvania South Chapter in 2007. After his death, they named that same award after him. Huh. They're just like, okay, yeah, this is the Pete Shellem Award now. I mean, how many reporters just go around getting wrongfully convicted people just out of prison? I mean, some might, if really good ones might get 1 out, and this dude gets 4. The Dauphin County Bar Association presented him with the Liberty Bell Award in 2008. On October 24th, 2009, Pete Shellem died. From the reports that I'm reading, that I've read, he killed himself.
Oh, no.
Yeah. There's nothing saying if he left a note or why he made that choice or what drove him to it. So I don't know if he was sick or depressed or whatever the case may be. His wife of 24 years and 2 sons remember him for all the good that he did and just how hard he worked. Pretty much that he was just always working, that he was that dedicated. Even Ernie Priet, the guy he helped put away in prison, expressed his admiration for him. Priet quoted saying, "You have to recognize the work that he's done and the value he's given to society. He was there when the justice system failed." That's pretty cool that a guy that you helped get put in prison for over a year, it's just like, he's a good guy.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
That don't sit right. Why would he do that to himself?
Well, I mean, all I know is the stuff that I went over, is the things that he did with his cases. I read accounts from other reporters. They talked about how he was that classic reporter with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, right, working on his notes in a bar, stuff like that. He was always feet on the ground, charging into things, but nothing about like whatever issues might have led to that. And again, nobody's actually ever said for sure if that's what happened.
Was he working on cases when he?
Don't know. The one thing that I do know is that he's the example that all reporters should follow. He's also the example that anyone who wants to do good in the world should follow. I mean, it's more than likely, unless you're from that area of Pennsylvania, you've never heard of him. And one of his former bosses said that his boss at a small newspaper, because remember, he didn't work at a big one. It was the Harrisburg Patriot News. He said that he could have went to a bigger newspaper at any time, or he could have even been on TV as an advocate for all this stuff.
Yeah.
But he never wanted that. He just wanted the freedom to do the work that he was passionate about. That's what he focused on. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to actually have good action and not attention.
Be bogged down by all the red tape.
He didn't pursue his cases for fame. He did it because there was a wrong that needed to be righted. And it's refreshing to hear about just somebody wanting to right a wrong.
Yeah. And doing it for strangers and get nothing in return.
Yeah. He still got paid, for writing his articles for the newspaper and stuff. But
he didn't, like you said, he didn't go get a TV show or a radio show or anything like that. He just stayed at his small newspaper, and did his job. Very good.
Well, that's going to do it for today's episode. That's one of my shorter ones. I'm very proud of myself for that, because I usually keep everybody on for almost an hour. Well, join us next time when Jason, if he isn't too busy recording himself donating meth to the local crackheads who can't afford meth due to inflation.
I got to donate that shit. I'm keeping it. What are you talking about?
Here, I thought you were better than that. Well, then I guess he'll have plenty of times to tell us some things that'll make us say, Waywut.
See y'all later.
Those poor crackheads. Bye. Thank you for joining us for Waywut. If you would, tell your friends or your enemies that they can watch us on YouTube or Rumble. And if you don't want to see our face, or if they don't want to see our faces, you can listen to us on your preferred audio platform. That's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Pandora, you name it, we're probably on there. Please like, review, and comment on whatever platform you joined us on today. We'd appreciate that a ton. Again, just thank you for listening and watching. We hope you'll join us next time. We'll make you say, "Wait, what?"